Can you give us like an estimate of a cost?
What I see as a trend.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Masha. This is Zania.
And we're Value.Tokenized.
Our guest for today is Florian Ducommun, founding partner of Lausanne-based HDC Legal Firm.
Florian has been working with innovative companies for many years, and he's also a part of Crypto Valley Regulatory Working Group.
Today, we will discuss the legal landscape in the region. How much does it cost to issue a security token? Does it make sense economically? And are Swiss investors really interested in tokenized securities? Hi, Florian. Thank you very much for joining us here at Value.Tokenized. Can you please start with introducing yourself and telling a bit about your business?
Thank you for having me there. I'm Florian Ducommun. I'm an attorney at law based in Switzerland, in Lausanne. Founder of the law firm HDC, which is a technology-based law firm, and also the CEO of the Legal Factory, which is a consulting and legal tech company based in Switzerland. And I'm advising as advisor several blockchain and innovative companies here in Switzerland and also in Hong Kong and worldwide, basically.
So Switzerland attracts a lot of attention in terms of security tokens. And what makes this jurisdiction special?
There's one main difference between what we know in the Anglo-Saxon world and Swiss law. Basically, in order to self-issue securities, a company in Switzerland does not need to have an authorization or a license from a regulator. It's not the same as in the US, where the SEC has to approve such issuance of shares. And that means basically that a company can issue its shares as security tokens, as if it were issuing shares as share certificates. It could actually incorporate these shares into tokens and make a security token offering, which simplifies quite a lot the process of a capital round.
And which regulations apply to utility and to security tokens, and what are the main restrictions?
Yeah, so if a company wants to issue utility tokens, there's no real restriction in the Swiss legal framework. It can do so. However, it could be subject to some financial regulations, and it has to make sure that while issuing utility tokens, there will be utilities attached to these tokens. Because if it's not, then it will be considered as a security token, and then you have to comply with some prospectus requirements, which is basically the only regulatory obligation for proposing security tokens to investors and to the public, right? So basically, there's the legal framework in Switzerland is very permissive in terms of token issuance, both utility and security, but you have to comply with some obligations, and including the prospectus issuance obligations. But what we're trying to do is now to have standards, and for companies wishing to issue security tokens to just use our articles of associations, use our prospectus, and then we can advise to do that in a way that will not be too costly and too time consuming for companies to issue their shares as security tokens. So the main idea of having security tokens is to reduce the costs of a financial round. So the main idea was to actually have templates in place that company can use to reduce these costs.
And do you think it already works this way now, so it makes financial sense versus a traditional securities offering?
now the market is mature to have these token issuance for financing rounds, and it will lower the cost. So basically, if in order to have a capital increase in Switzerland, you have to go through a public notary, so you cannot cut these costs. You have these costs, but for the whole process of subscribing shares, you can really do that in a more efficient way using security token. You can address to a larger public. You don't have to address only to Swiss investors. You can address to the world, and you can really reach out also small investors if you comply with the prospectus requirement. People that work and have some money on the side, they want to invest in your company, then you can also reach other investors. And I think that's both rational in terms of the way the capital increase will be done, and the reach and the target of your investment.
Who is your typical client? Are mostly blockchain-related companies and startups interested in security tokenization, or traditional businesses?
When I launched the law firm, I really focused on innovative companies. So it was before the world blockchain wave, and my typical clients now are blockchain investors, blockchain companies, and also technology companies, because I'm not only involved in blockchain industry.
And talking about blockchain-related companies, how hard is it to open a bank account for them in Switzerland? Because some regions see this problem a lot.
Basically, you have to distinguish between a company, a blockchain company that wants to do an ICO, and a blockchain company which is a technology company. And basically, the position of the banks now in Switzerland is, well, we don't have problem with companies using the blockchain as a technology and developing this technology, because it's open source technology, it's a software, and we can open a bank account for this company. But as soon as the funds will be coming from investors in the crypto, in the sale of crypto assets and issuance of tokens, then the banks are much more reluctant at this stage. And so, that was last year one of the burden for moving on quickly on the ICO market, because the banks were quite reluctant, didn't understand the world technology, what was going on. Now what we have is we have a report, very thoroughly written, very well written report of the government on blockchain and ICOs. There are some directives of the Swiss Bankers Association in place, so that now that everything, the framework is in place in terms of KYCs, in terms of anti-money laundering, in terms of account opening. Everything is in place now to move on to the next step. But it took some time. And what you have to understand with Switzerland is that it's not like Gibraltar or Malta, where you enact a new law and you just step in, a new trend. It takes time, and things are done really thoroughly. And that was the way it was done now. We have a legislation which is adapted and will be soon further adapted to the blockchain and blockchain companies, and really the legal framework is really well done and well constructed here.
You also mentioned exchanges. Which regulations currently apply to security token exchanges in Switzerland?
Well, so there's a law that was enacted 2 years ago, which is called the law on financial market infrastructure, which actually regulates trading platforms, either multilateral trading platforms or organized trading systems, so like OTF. And this law, according to the government report, applies also to tokenized assets, right? So digital asset trading, and it will be adapted to the blockchain. So basically, you will have to comply with this authorization of the financial market infrastructure. You will have to get an authorization for that. At this time, if you want to have an organized trading facility, then you'll have to be going through a broker-dealer license or a banking license to be able to run such a centralized system. For decentralized trading, so decentralized exchanges, the situation is not that clear, but the Federal Council in its report considers that it could also be subject to this financial market infrastructure regulation. So the next step will be to have a specific blockchain infrastructure license.
And what are the requirements for an investor from Switzerland to participate in an STO? And do you see a lot of interest from Swiss investors towards tokenized securities?
So, as in all markets, there's the distinction between qualified investor and non-qualified investor. Qualified investor in Switzerland as a private individual is someone having more than $500,000 available Swiss francs, and so there's interest from qualified investors to invest in security tokens. There's interest also from other investors, like non-qualified investors. As soon as you want to issue your shares and propose them to non-qualified investors, the requirements in terms of prospectus issuance will be a bit higher for the company issuing the tokens. But it's not something that we have to reinvent every time. As soon as the standards are in place, then we can really quickly prepare all the documentation for this type of issuance. And to answer your question specifically, I see a lot of interest at this stage, both from blockchain companies and from innovative startups to go through security token offerings for their next financing rounds. Because it's always been a pain for technology companies to go through the capital rounds, and they have to, and especially in Switzerland, take a lot of time to do the due diligence and so on. So that will stay, but then for the whole process of increasing the capital, it could be really simplified quite a lot using security tokens.
Can you give us like an estimate of a cost that a company who wants to do a security token offering has to be ready for in Switzerland?
Well, what I must say first is that when we speak about capital market and you want to raise capital on the public with the public, then you had to go public. You had to do an IPO, and you had to go through intermediaries, which cost you approximately 500,000 Swiss francs to be able to be listed and to have the banks that, or the intermediaries that will issue your prospectus and so on. So the whole idea of security tokens, and where I think it's really promising, is that you can lower this cost, right? So the idea is to cut the intermediaries, because you don't need anymore to go through a bank to issue your tokens. You can do it as a company. And so the idea is really to lower to the maximum the cost that it will imply, and also to lower the cost from a traditional capital increase.
And how do you see the role of the Swiss crypto valley, Zug, and the evolving security token industry?
The Crypto Valley, and I'm part of the regulatory working group, has done a beautiful, wonderful job in terms of positioning Switzerland as a crypto place, because the Ethereum Foundation was in Zug. And so in terms of communication, marketing, Crypto Valley is terrific. In terms of setting standards for the blockchain industry, it's also very useful because there's a bunch of lawyers, very high-level lawyers, speaking together and setting up the rules and taking positions and sending that to the government, to the regulator, to the FINMA. So there's a good dialogue, between Crypto Valley and all the actors. So Crypto Valley is very important. Now, I think about now Switzerland as a whole and not only Zug, because Zug is a very small and tiny ecosystem, very Zurich-centric, and it's quite hard to get into it. So I think now Switzerland also has very nice blockchain companies in Geneva, Lake area, and it's also coming out of the Federal School of Technology here in Lausanne. So I think now it's broader than just Zug, and also Crypto Valley is not only Zug anymore. It's Zug, Ticino, so the Italian part, and the French-speaking part, which is Geneva. So Crypto Valley now, I see it as a Swiss-based association and not a Zug-based association.
I think, and to finish our interview, can you share your vision on how the legal landscape is evolving in the region, and what do you maybe expect to happen during this year?
Yeah, so I think there's two very nice trends. One coming from FINMA, which is actually welcoming the blockchain industry. I think what happened is that the CEO, the head of FINMA, is British, and he saw that Switzerland was not that well positioned on fintech industry, and he wanted really to get into the blockchain as a positioning of the country. So he really welcomed the blockchain-based technology and evolutions. And so that's why they were the first to issue guidelines on how they will treat ICOs and, to give some security to the market and to the investors. So I think one very nice trend is coming from FINMA because they push for this technology to evolve in Switzerland. And another nice actually birthday gift I had was on December 14th, my birthday, where I got this report from the government, which is also very much welcoming the blockchain industry, very much welcoming, this positioning of FINMA. And they did a really nice report, both legally and technically, on the blockchain, and I think it will really put the level of the country to the best level. So I think it's very promising for this year. I think the trend is really, we saw with the crypto winter last year on utility tokens, we saw really this trend on quick ICOs and things really fading away, but a lot of interest in STOs, so security tokens offering, and not only blockchain companies, also technology companies. So I think now what we have to look at this year is going to be how to tokenize in an efficient way securities for companies, and I'm working on that with both my law firm and with the legal factory, and crypto exchanges on security tokens. So that's coming. The first authorizations will be delivered this semester, and we'll have this type of NASDAQ for crypto, and that will create a great trend again. That's what I think. Maybe wrong, but that's what I see as a trend.
Thank you very much, Florian, for this comprehensive analysis of the landscape and the trends as well. I think that's probably the general sentiment around the market. So thank you very much for being with us.